Jersey. It is dark and a bit chilly. Winter is coming very soon. If you're anything like me, you are not looking forward to it. Anything below 70 is not for me. And you enjoyed a great best of Money Talk with Melanie last week because I was on a beautiful, beautiful vacation, just island hopping in the Caribbean. Shout out to Celebrity Cruise Lines. It was a fantastic time, and I am refreshed and ready to go, ready to talk some business, news, politics, and careers, public policy, and all that jazz. I'm very excited to be back. My guests for tonight's show in the 7 o'clock hour, Melissa Brown, the host of Understaffed podcast and the Chief Operations Officer of Concierge Elite, talks benefits and challenges of remote work. So we're going to chat a bit about that, about the benefits and challenges of doing remote work, as well as hiring remote workers for your business. And then in hour 2, the 8 p.m. hour, we will have Kelly MacLean. She's the president and founder of Kelly MacLean Achievement Center. And she's going to talk College Planning 101, setting your student up for success. So I'm sure many parents out there will want to tune in, and maybe some of you who are thinking about what your future might be like, the sooner the better. You might want to listen in and see how you can set yourself up for success no matter what you're planning to do. But before we do that, we're going to talk a little bit of news. In the Elon Musk news, I feel like I should just have a segment at this point on Elon Musk every single week and what he's doing with Twitter. Now the left is just completely after him. They're so mad that he's revealing all the things that were done behind the scenes to really, in my opinion, squash free speech on platforms like Twitter. I mean, it's pretty clear that the government was in cahoots with the leftists at Twitter to squash certain stories and to really, try to influence the last presidential election. You may not like to hear that, but we live in a country where you are responsible for vetting information, not where other people decide that for you and decide what is misinformation or not. We live in a country where we have personal responsibility to do our own research. If we don't believe something, we look into it. We don't let government officials or CEOs or just people who, from ivory towers think that they can decide for the rest of the society what to believe. It's a dangerous, dangerous prospect, and it's something that we should avoid, shun, and fight against. And that's exactly what Elon Musk is doing. And for those of you, I hope somebody will tweet me at NJGOPDiva or at Money Talk Mel and tell me what if you are, and I've put this proposal out before, no one's taken me up on it, but if you are a person who is pro shutting down free speech, I'd like to know why. I really would like to know why. As a black person, myself, I think that if someone is a racist, if you're a white supremacist, a skinhead, whatever, and they want to talk about that, that's to my advantage. Because why would I not want to know if someone hates me for the color of my skin? Why would I want that person to go underground and be stealth-like in their hate for me and do things to me behind the scenes? I want you to wave your Confederate flag. I want you to wear, I hate black people t-shirt, if that's what you want to do. I need to know to stay away from you. That's my position. To me, it just makes sense. I don't know why you would want to shut those people up. In my opinion, it just sends them underground. That's just one chick's opinion. So, and it's the same thing with all of these. How do you know when people are lying? Like the Hunter Biden laptop, for example, which depressed the mainstream media, is now saying, oh, yeah, it was true. Even though we said that it was a lie, close to the election, it actually was true. Who are you going to trust? Trust yourself. We're personally responsible for the information that we vet. And a lot of people are really mad at Elon Musk for revealing, like I said, that the media and the Democrat Party really was in cahoots to cover things up to influence votes. And that's not a good thing. So now, out in California, one of the things that Musk is doing, he tweeted that he is adding staff beds to Twitter, which is kind of funny, because people are tired and they need a little nappy time if they're going to be working for Elon Musk. And, now these certain cities, particularly liberal ones, that are complicit in trying to cover up messages that they did not want America to hear, are now, opening all kinds of investigations and really just retaliating. And that's exactly what happens anytime you fight against the powers that be. You're going to get retaliation. You're going to get punished. You're going in some way, shape, or form. So that's what they're trying to do to Elon Musk. And I hope he just continues the fine fight and continues to get out there and win. That's what he should do. He's doing it for everybody. It is not a good look to put people in charge of information. Do we want to be in bed with the same people like China, who doesn't allow, in North Korea, who doesn't even allow a Bible app on an iPhone? Like that, to me, is very problematic. So just something to think about. And if you want that speech shut down, tell me why at Money Talk Mel. I'm very curious what the logic is behind that. Anywho, speaking of tech and technology, Apple is being sued. And this was a little scary and concerning. The reason why they're being sued is because of these AirTags. And if you don't know what they are, they allow you can attach it to an item and then connect with it from your phone, and you can tell where that item is. Well, like any technology, there's always somebody out there who will use great technology in nefarious ways, and people are using it to stalk other people, and it's not a good thing. A lot of women are being stalked by ex-boyfriends and, admirers, if you will, and how they're doing it. It's really frightening. Are sticking AirTags like underneath the wheel well of your car. This one woman who is suing Apple. I don't know if they have a lawsuit there, but I'm really saying this because I want people to be aware of it. This one woman is divorced from her husband, and when her child comes back home, she has to search the backpack because the dad keeps putting AirTags like in the kid's stuff. It's ridiculous. So they're suing, saying that Apple basically hasn't done enough to protect people from their product being used in nefarious ways. I don't know if that's a thing. I'm not a lawyer, but I think it's very interesting. And I think that everybody should just really be aware. There is a mechanism to be able to tell if you're near an AirTag, which is good. So you probably want to go ahead and turn that on if you have the slightest suspicion that you may be being followed or monitored or anything like that. Final story. I definitely want to get this in before the break. FTX, that scam of a crypto company. MarketWatch has a lovely little article about who received money from this dude. Because you got to ask yourself, how in the world did he get away? This is like, Bernie Madoff type scam. He says he's investigating. He's going to find out what happened to the money. But it very much looks like he spent other people's money on his own stuff, which is not a good thing. He had no kind of real financial structure as far as having like a CFO or somebody running his books, nothing like that. And so he's got to find out what happened to this money. But MarketWatch, which I was surprised, published an extensive list of donations that were given to different organizations and what party that organization represented, so to speak. And there's people on both sides of the aisles, mostly Democrats, but there's quite a few Republicans on this list as well. They don't have clean hands. So, just something to look at, but it's an interesting article. The name of the article, if you want to check it out and see if you've donated to any of these organizations and see their hands are dirty. You have to know. If it looks crazy, it can't be true. Like with Bernie Madoff, it's the same thing. People were making so much money, and that is not the way financial advising works. It goes in cycles. If there's not an ebb and flow, something's wrong. If you were continually making a profit, there is a problem, because that is not how that works, just statistically. But the name of the article is called "Here Are the Politicians Who Received Money" from FTX's Sam Bankman-Fried. Something you might want to look at, just saying. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. When we come back on the other side of the break, we will have my first guest, Melissa Brown, the host of Understaffed podcast and a chief operations article of Concierge Elite, to talk to us about the benefits and challenges of remote work. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. Our first guest this evening is Melissa Brown. She is the host of Understaffed podcast and chief operations officer of Concierge Elite. Tonight, she's going to discuss the benefits and challenges of remote work. Melissa is one of the top thought leaders in the nation on how to work remotely for professional practices. As Chief Operating Officer for Concierge Elite, with a master's in organizational design, Melissa has seen and trained it all. Attendees share it is her boots on the ground experience combined with an incredible ability to translate theory into action that makes Melissa one of the most in-demand speakers in the country. And that's why we here at Money Talk with Melanie are very happy to have her here tonight. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the show Melissa Brown.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here on such an important topic. Remote work certainly did not really go away. Quote unquote post-COVID. So I think this is an important thing to talk about.
Absolutely is.
Is there anything that I didn't say in your bio that you'd like the audience to know about you?
Well, I'm not only a motivational speaker, and speaker on remote staffing, but am running a company called ConciergeElite.com, which really specializes in that front desk remote staffing solutions.
Nice. So you help companies find quality remote staffers?
Absolutely. Right now, as we know, it is a challenging environment to find staff. And so it's a hot topic, right, when people can't find staff right now, and then looking at remote and how that fits into their organization.
Exactly. That is exactly true. So now, since you decided to get into this business, do you have some reasons? Do you have to try to convince people to hire remote workers, or are companies by and large already looking for remote workers?
I think that's the big nut to crack right there. I mean, that's the conversation to be had, is that people are really scared to go remote, even after they did already. Most companies did already after COVID. Remote work's been around for a long time. People don't know, COVID didn't invent remote work, but it really did highlight it and the ability to then make it successful. And so what I'm seeing is a lot of businesses are like, oh my gosh, we got to go back to the way it was. And if you're doing that, you're falling behind in the industry. And so what's so important for people to understand about remote work is it is the new normal. And not only is it the direction people are going, but if you want good quality people, if you want your workforce to be happy, all of those things, you've got to offer some flexibility. You've got to start looking in the remote atmosphere. So, yeah, it's a tough nut to crack right now. There is a lot of convincing. Believe it or not, I didn't think that there would be, but we continue to have the conversation. And once people do it, though, they kind of get past that hurdle. They realize, oh, okay, all right, this can be successful. We can do this, and we can really benefit from it.
For sure. I mean, for one thing, and I don't know if you agree, but I find that if I work from home, I tend to be more productive. And friends of mine that work remotely say the same thing. I tend to work more and straight through without stopping if I'm home rather than at the office.
I think that's a huge fear. I mean, I've been reading articles after articles of large corporations right now who are getting scared of the productivity. And that's when they're kind of going, well, no, we got to go back into the office. But studies are really showing that 85% of people's productivity will increase by working from home. It's that work-life balance that we've always been looking for. It's the new generation of workforce. They're looking for that type of flexibility. And, 80% of people say right now, if they're looking for a job, they will turn it down if there's not some flexibility. There's not some option to go remote.
Sure. And I think part of that is because, COVID made us realize, just from a philosophical, life perspective, the fragility of life itself.
Yeah.
Right. And just having a good quality of life as long as you're here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been talking about that on Understaffed, the podcast, is that, we've all relooked at our life, looked at what's important personally in our business, where's our priorities at, what are we going to go ahead with, are we running our businesses the way we want to run them, all of those things. So we took a good hard look. And at the end of the day, we say, okay, yes, we have to work. We got to make a living, right? We got to do all these things. But, can we do that in a different way that can make us happy as well?
For sure. And I think working at home, I mean, listen, just the fact that my dog is next to me at home while I'm working is comforting. It just has a comforting feel, right? And to me, it does anyway. And I'm just more likely to not leave my desk and just sit there and work. And I'll just keep working. And before I know it, the day's gone.
That's absolutely right. I mean, I think that's the big thing, right, is that it makes people happy, which makes them more productive. And people are like, hey, why is my staff leaving? Well, ask them. And I bet if you dig in and you find there's that flexibility that they're wanting and desiring, and just by offering that, you're going to keep the current staff that you have. You're going to make them more happy, and then you're going to increase their productivity.
For sure. And then the other thing is you have a bigger talent pool to draw from, right? You don't just have your geographic area where your brick and mortar business or offices are located.
Yeah. I mean, if you're hiring here locally, right, you've got a small pool of people who are going to drive, 10, 15 minutes now at the price of gas and everything else. So you've got an even smaller pool than you used to. Well, when you go remote, there is no geographic boundaries at all. I mean, you can find really amazing people all over the world to work for you and for your location, and really provide you excellent service. They're going to help you reduce overhead, increase ROI. I mean, we're busting it out every day, with Concierge Elite, and really proving this model. Now, we specifically work with the medical field and in veterinary, and we are just finding that it is so successful. People just take a look at it, and when they do and they implement it, it's really working.
I mean, the fact that you work in that particular niche, to me, speaks volumes, because that just seems pretty specialized.
It is. It is very specialized. We, especially, the veterinary, we also work optical and dental. And then I said medical as well. That is a specialized field, but it's so in demand right now. The labor is really, really hard to find. So people who are out there who are like, the phone's ringing off the hook. I need help. We can help. We can really provide solutions where they didn't think that they could get them.
Wow. And then when you think, I feel like companies could pitch to their employees the reduced costs for them when it comes to doing remote work, not having to drive, not having as many miles on your car, less of a commute, I would think, would mean lower auto insurance rates as well. Like, there's so many benefits for the employees as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was just there. I was in Atlantic City recently, speaking. I was in San Diego just last week. And right there, the costs are very high for people, and so you're having to pay more and more and more for an employee because they're taking into account all of that. Is there any flexibility? What's the cost of gas? What's the cost of healthcare? All of those things they take in their mind when they say, this is how much I'm going to, my bottom dollar is. And so that's continuing to get higher and higher. And businesses are like, whoa, wait a minute. I don't know if I can afford that anymore. And so by offering that flexibility, you're able to look at it and really even potentially lower the cost and your overhead.
Exactly. And so I'm surprised that you're able to do the veterinary and medical fields. How does that work exactly? with those industries? How are you able to incorporate remote staff?
So we primarily work at the front desk. So our job is we completely integrate with every systems, processes, and everything that the client currently has. So if we're talking about a veterinary business, what we're going in providing them with a front desk employee who's trained in veterinary, who is trained to be a front desk specialist, and then who completely integrates with their systems and softwares, phone companies, all of that. So we already know of those systems because we are specialized. And so we go in, all the training is done. Really, we're just teaching them some basics of the practice, but we're going in and providing that front desk employee who's answering the phones, who's scheduling appointments, who's doing reactivation calls, so taking a look at those people who haven't been in a while, doing surgery follow-ups. We do things like voicemails so that you never have to listen to a voicemail again. We take care of personal assistant duties like checking your schedules and checking your emails and sorting all of those out, returning those emails and those phone calls. So everything that we can do normally in the practice, we can do remotely except for take care of the patient. Now, we want those folks to be able to, when you've got staff in there, capitalize on that. Use those people to provide the best service possible when they walk in the door.
And that makes so much sense. And a lot of that stuff that you spoke about that can be done remotely is so tedious. And really, in my opinion, a person who is working on their craft, whatever their specialty is. Like my veterinarian, I want them, reading the latest technology and trends in veterinary medicine so that when my little chihuahua comes in, that she knows, the very best and techniques to make his life wonderful, not, answering emails.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We say all the time, do what you do best. Take care of the pet, take care of the client, take care of your patient. Do that and let us focus on the rest. Because in the end, that's what's going to keep people coming back and keep them coming back. Let us do the tedious stuff. I mean, gosh, our doctors don't need to be sitting down reading emails for 2 hours. That's crazy.
Exactly.
Sorting through what's important and what's not. We'll take care of that. Allow the people in the practice to get cross-trained. Grow some vet techs, grow some people who can be doing other things within your practice versus just answering the phone all day.
Exactly. And that is a very good point. And a lot of times people will be anxious to have that kind of growth.
Mm-hmm.
So now, what do you think, speaking of growing, do you think there's some qualities about a person that makes them a good remote worker or someone who is a better fit for remote work rather than office work?
Yeah, I think so. I think, really your voice, your personality has to come through, right? Because you're talking about just being on the phone. Nobody's ever going to see you in person. So you've got to have a really great voice, great personality, empathy. You're going to have to be able to really provide that over the phone in difficult situations. And then we're always looking for, on top of that, the people's ability to learn. Because you are remote and you're not learning hands-on per se, the ability to learn needs to be, you're going to have a higher level than most people. So when you go into a normal job, right, you're going to get that hands-on training. They're going to show you, they're going to point, they're going to say, oh, no, you did that wrong, because they're looking over their shoulder. In a remote atmosphere, the ability to be able to do that on your own, realize when you're making mistakes, make adjustments, and then learn quickly is going to be attributes that you're going to need to have a little bit higher of in a remote setting.
For sure. And what about being tech savvy?
I think there's some aspect of that. I don't think it's the number one thing. I mean, we definitely train for that in ours. We're definitely looking at it. But I think this generation is pretty tech savvy on their own. But if you're from a different generation, there's some basic things that you're going to need to know. But it's really about picking up the phone, knowing how to use your phone systems, and then knowing what you would know in the practice, which is how to use the software.
For sure. And you train on the software, I would imagine, whatever specific software it is. That's what I used to, in my other life, I was an educator. And one of the things that I taught was computer applications, but it was tough because the applications change so rapidly. One time I was about to do a lesson and I turned on my smartboard and the entire app that I was about to teach had completely changed. I think it was like Word, as a matter of fact.
Right.
It was when they did that major change from whatever it was before to ribbons. Now, the format that they have now. Yeah, when they did that, literally, I opened a board. Yeah. Everything's completely different. I was like, wow, I'm in big trouble right now.
Right. No, I totally get that. I mean, we use a lot of, in the vet industry, in the medical industry, they use a lot of similar software. Every now and again, there's kind of a random one out there. But what we find is that practices use maybe the same software, but they use it differently. So our goal with, anybody who comes in and we're helping out do this is to find the differences. We learn how to use the software as a whole, and then we go in and learn, okay, do you schedule by the hour? Do you schedule by the doctor? Do you schedule by the room? So we're learning their differences. We've got it really down to a science where it only takes 2 hours to get someone completely onboarded from start to finish from the practice. So
that's pretty good.
Time.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And then 2 weeks, they're ready to start in that practice in 2 weeks and start answering the phone, booking appointments.
Oh, that's excellent. And what do you think about organization and time management skills? Is that an essential quality to have if you're going to decide to work remotely?
I think so. Now you just spoke my language. Like you said in the beginning, my master's degree is in organizational management. And, I've got the minor in human resources and 25 years in the education and training. So I absolutely am a firm believer in people who really have those skills, because you got to stay organized. You got to know what you're doing. You got to be able to multitask. And the more you're able to do that, those are your really people that you're going to get the highest return on investment. Those are the people who are home increasing productivity with remote work.
Exactly.
So definitely a quality.
And I feel like, quite frankly, the same people who are going to take advantage and I'm going to use an old word now, lollygag, right? At work are the same people who are probably going to take advantage during remote work. Like, I don't think it's going to be a surprise who is not as productive as other workers.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I mean, we keep hearing in this era right now, we're hearing that quiet quitting and all of that sort of thing, right? But I think it's a type of person that you're looking for. I think there's qualities like you were talking about, like we've been talking about, that you're looking for in a worker, right? And I think those are those people that you need to find and seek out, no matter if it's remote work or in-house work. You're looking for those people who are going to provide you with the highest return, who are going to want to stay in the long haul, who are, all of those things. And so it's a quality in a person. For sure.
I think enthusiastic workers are going to, go gung-ho and just work all day. And probably in the office would not fall to distractions very easily. And will just work more at home. And people who completely take advantage, who you always see at the water cooler, will probably do the same thing at home and be less productive.
Right. Those aren't the people you probably send home and say, hey, I think you should go to remote work because I think you'd be really good at it. No.
Yeah, right.
Not those people, right?
So you specialize in veterinary and medical, but are there any other industries that could possibly use remote staff?
We are open to all industries. Definitely, like real estate, look at us a lot. We're looking at home improvement, anywhere where you're kind of increasing your business. You're not sure if you want to bring on a receptionist, or now it's become too much for you and your business is blowing up and you don't have an office. So people who don't have an office, this is really, really good for because they work mobile. So you work out of a truck or things like that. So this tends to work really nicely for them. But, right now the veterinary and medical industries are definitely blowing up, and we're finding out of thousands and thousands of people we've surveyed, pretty much 99.9% of them are hiring right now.
Oh, wow. That's huge.
Huge.
And that's wonderful. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. Our guest this hour is Melissa Brown. She's the host of the Understaffed podcast, and she's also the Chief Operations Officer of Concierge Elite, and we're discussing the benefits and challenges of remote work. We're going to commercial. We'll be right back.
Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. We're speaking with Melissa Brown, who's talking to us about the benefits and challenges of remote work. Before we left, we talked about the different industries that can certainly use a remote staff. If you are a business that is considering hiring a remote staff or switching to a remote team, how would you go about looking for a good remote team and one that is a great fit for your business and industry?
Well, we have a full manual that we've put out on really how to recruit and, remote workers. I think there's definitely 5 really big key points to it. I think the first one is really decide where you want to hire from, whether you want to be international, if you want to stay in the United States, whatever that looks like. You got to plan your budget. You got to look at that in terms of what can you afford and how much can you save as well as going remote. And then really then going out and searching out those people. There's a lot of great websites right now that, of course, can do remote work, and specifically people are looking for that remote kind of keyword. And then, going after there and really optimizing then your interview process. So that's a big one, really being able to take a look at kind of what we talked about a little bit about the different qualities of what makes a good remote worker. And then once you finally able to do that, of course, to interview them and really decide if they make a good fit for the team.
Oh, that's good. I didn't even think about that one thing you said about just having to, like, how do you know whether somebody is going to be good or not, or going? I feel like people can game the system and game people. You know what I mean? Just do a really good presentation, be a really good salesperson, and then then you have to put out, then you have to produce.
Mm-hmm.
And how can you tell if the person is far away, whether or not they're producing?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things. There's some remote friendly qualities we kind of talked about. So, and we talked about not everybody's going to thrive in that setting. So you're going to look for the attributes, things that demonstrate whether that candidate works effectively in that outside environment. And some of those things are going to be making sure that you get them on a Zoom call, not just a phone call, making sure that you're looking at them. You're going to look at, are they attentive? Are they self-motivated? How's their communication skills? Can they adapt? Can they collaborate in a way that's going to work with the whole team, and do that through mostly, you're going to be in an instant messenger. You're going to be in something like that versus you can't just do it by talking to people every day face to face. And then you touched on a little bit, can you use technology and can you use the digital tools that particular office is using?
Sure. And I think you probably also need to be able to focus, right, on one task at a time without moving all around. Quite honestly, I think it's easier to do that remotely than it is to do in the office.
I think so. Although I have 3 screens in front of me most days, so I don't know if that's all the way that, because I'm a huge multitasker. But for most people, being able to focus in on what they're doing specifically in front of them is going to be something you're looking for. Yeah,
for sure. So now, you mentioned earlier that there are staffing challenges today. What are some of the reasons that in your opinion, that people are having issues getting staff and getting people to work?
Well, I think after COVID, again, we talked about having, people's priorities changed. I think our generation is changing. I recently was speaking with somebody who is staffing, in a flour mill. And it was like, they're like, I can't get people to work. And I said, well, have you changed your incentive package? Have you changed, how you hire 20 years ago to how you hire today? And she was like, well, I mean, no, we're offering all this money and stuff like that. I said, yeah, but people want something different today. Our generations who are in the workforce today are looking for something different than they did 20 years ago. And so you have to look at how and what you're offering and really be competitive in the market. As I kind of mentioned before, 74% say if they can't work remote, they're going to quit, or if there's not some flexibility. And that's their current job. And then 80% will turn down something if there's no flexibility. And so sometimes making just small adjustments in what maybe that workday looks like, or the flexibility, or, whatever those things are that are driving the current workforce can help bring in those people. Sometimes you just have to change the way you advertise and you you create ads. I mean, are they appealing? Are you using the right, types of communication skills to get out there? Are they eye-catching? Because there's a lot of people hiring right now. So what does your job ad even look like? Are you talking about you and your culture, or are you just talking about, the checkpoints of the job?
For sure, but I think there are, and you're the professional, so I'd like to get your opinion on this. The way people write their ads sometimes have red flags, much like a dating profile with red flags.
Yeah.
Able to work in a fast-paced, ever-changing environment. I'm like, oh, so you're disorganized and demanding. Got it.
Right. Exactly. And I think that we just don't even think about that. We just throw out these job ads and hope that a bunch of people are going to apply. And that's just not the case anymore. Back when I started looking for jobs, I'd go in, right, and say, can I have an application? And they'd hand me a piece of paper and I could meet with them. That's not what we're doing anymore. So your job ad has to be really eye-catching. Are you communicating clearly about that you're going to provide that flexibility? Are you giving a compelling overview of the company? Why it's a great place to work? What are the great qualities that you bring? Because just like you're interviewing them, they're interviewing you.
Indeed. And if you're not interviewing your employer, as someone who is seeking a job, you're doing it wrong, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you should be able to quiz that person on if they even looked at your LinkedIn profile or your website or all of that, right? You should be able to easily ask questions to your candidate about your website, and they should be able to answer it. The basic things that are on there. But likewise, they're going to do that to you. They're going to probably, the good candidates are going to be looking at that. They're going to look at, your faces on there and the About Us pages. And what are you saying about the place that it is to work? And is it a great place?
Exactly. I mean, if I go on a website, someplace I'm applying, and their website is a wreck, that tells me a lot about the company. Mm-hmm. It may be good, may be bad. I'm a recovering perfectionist, so I think that would super bother me if I went to. I saw I actually was reading somebody's bio today on a website, and I guess they post them themselves, or maybe a publicist did, and there were like tons of typos and just like grammatical errors, and I was like, this is supposed to be like your PR. What are you doing? Like what? And I don't know. Maybe a remote worker did that. But I'm like, did you do this yourself and post it and think that was okay? Because it does give an impression.
It does. It absolutely does.
So now I know one of the things now big corporations, I feel like, have been doing this remote staffing thing for quite a while, right? You call into a credit card company per se, and it can be someone from another country. For sure. How should companies decide, or what factors do you think they should consider if they're going to do a global search rather than just in the United States?
There's a lot of things to consider when going globally, because you're having to abide by rules and regulations, within those countries. So definitely, if you're looking to do that, reach out to somebody who does remote staffing, somebody like us or even somebody else, and really let them help you. Let them walk you through it. If you do want to do that, and find somebody who can find you the staff. I personally wouldn't say go ahead and do that on your own, because you will incur more costs than it's worth in the long run, just because of the overhead and the rules and regulations. But
I didn't realize. So how do the rules and regulations work? Are you beholden to, as a company, beholden to the rules and regulations of the country of origin of that remote worker?
That's correct. That's correct. If you're going to hire them as an employee, then you absolutely have to hire them with the rules and regulations of those countries.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, that's why some of the other companies, they hire them as independent contractors and do different things like that. But then there's a whole set of rules and regulations and human resources around that whole thing. So you just want to be careful when doing that you go through, a trusted company to find you somebody. And most of the time, like us, we do hire worldwide. We're going to be able to provide you that person, and we've already absorbed those costs, and we know those rules and regulations within the countries that we hire in.
And that's why it's always good to have a company like you that has that expertise. And it really kind of gets back to what we were saying earlier about focusing on your area of expertise rather than focusing on these other things. Like, should a veterinarian have to be a global remote worker expert?
Right. They should not.
Right.
They should
That's
not.
where somebody like you would come into play for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, use people in their given talents, right? So you focus on what you're good at and allow, there are people out there in companies like ours, as well, that are doing it. And, you kind of mentioned before, there's a lot of companies who are doing this remote thing. And, you mentioned some of them. And what's unique about what we do is that we provide dedicated staffing. So we are not a call center. We're actually going to find you a person, and that's going to be your person. So you'll get to look at our resumes, and you'll get to help pick that person and interview them, and you're going to find somebody who's going to work for you full or part-time. And we're going to let you use that person and take all the benefits of having a great person. So in our particular situation, we're not a call center. There is a lot of bad stigma around call centers, and that was one thing when I started this company that I really wanted to make sure we weren't a part of.
I think that stigma's well earned.
I think so too. But I did not want to be part of that. I really wanted to provide people good quality, employees that they could have for a very long time.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I think, I don't know. It seems like the quality of customer service just in general has declined pretty rapidly post-COVID, and the companies that didn't care before really don't care now about that piece, as far as, like, if you're going to have global workers, make sure that they're able to work well, in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
That
you have to.
That's pretty important. Otherwise, I think customers get pretty discouraged.
They have to integrate with your culture. They have to integrate with, what you have going on, and that's important to us. It's important that when we find somebody, that they can be involved in the morning meetings, that they can be involved in this, the staff parties, even virtually, or whatever that looks like for each individual person, but they can really play in and be a part of the culture and values of that particular practice or business. That's one of our big things. We're going to fit not only for, this person sounds great, but we're going to, and their talents align and their certifications, but we're also looking, do they fit with, all of those other things that are so important within the practice.
True. Now there are some naysayers about remote work, and one of the things that companies, particularly larger ones, I feel, talk about things like lack of team cohesiveness when you have a team of remote workers. I don't know that's true, but how do you feel about that criticism of remote work?
I think it can absolutely be true, but that's on the leader.
Sorry
it is.
Throw
it right back. But I really think that's a leadership quality. I think that when you create a great team that's inclusive of people, that bring new people on, that invite that sort of growth and teamwork and behavior, then it doesn't matter if they're remote or sitting in the office. That's the kind of culture you've created. And so I see that time and time again, those who really have developed that within their current team, bringing on a remote team member is amazing. I mean, they just absolutely love them, and they love having them a part of it, and they see their benefit and everything, and they all work together as a team. But those people who kind of have a culture of, everybody's each man for themselves and this, that, and the other thing, it's really hard. It's really hard to bring somebody on who's not sitting there with them. So I challenge the leader in that. I challenge them in how and what kind of culture that they're creating.
I like that. That is very good. Now, another criticism is increased distractions. I'm very fortunate in that I live, but it's just me and my pupper. So he's the biggest distraction that I have while I'm working. Sometimes he's sitting on my lap while I'm trying to type. It happens. But I think that people misunderstand remote work to mean that you can do other things. And I think that's where the distraction comes in. It's like, no, you have to actually be working.
So you actually have to work. I mean, and again, so there's lots of safeguards. And I was reading some articles recently where people were really mad about the safeguards. Oh, you mean they're going to screenshot my screen? Do they not trust me and all of that? Well, there's safeguards
no,
in
we're
place
paying
for
you.
a reason.
Yeah, and no, we don't trust but verify, right?
Trust but verify, exactly. But our team members are so busy, and in most of these industries they're answering the phone. So you're going to know if they're doing something different because the phone's not getting answered. There's downtime, and what do they have? What's the list of responsibilities that they have in downtime? So as a leader and as the person who's employing that person, are you providing that person enough tasks to do throughout the day that are really going to fill the day up? And front desk, it's pretty, it's kind of simple because there's so much to do that you're taking off the plate of, the people in office that it really kind of fills itself. But yeah, if you're looking to hire somebody, there are safeguards and put them in place. Have those things that screenshot the screen every whatever, amounts of minutes or whatever. Those things are important. You don't have to be screenshotting them, the person with a camera, but do other things that are really just going to verify that they are working.
That makes sense. And the last thing that I saw was about time zone management. I have a friend who works for a large company, and she works with people all over the world, China, Germany, India, and she has meetings, consequently has meetings all different times of the day and night because of working remotely with all these different people. Are there ways that challenge can be met?
Find people who will work in your time zone, because that's what we do.
Okay, that makes sense.
We just put it out that you must be willing to work in, Eastern Standard Time or Central, whatever time zone that is. Put that in your ad. Put that's what you're looking for, because when you do, people will apply who are willing to work in that time zone. And I think it's simple as that.
That makes a lot of sense. This hour went by really quickly. Tell the audience, if you would, where they can avail themselves of your services, how they can follow you on any social media or anything like that.
Absolutely. Go to ConciergeElite.com. That's ConciergeElite.com. You can find us there. You can also find my podcast on Understaffed, and that's where any good podcast can be found.
Excellent. I really enjoyed having you on the show. Very, very informative. I like that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Melissa Brown, once again, she is from the host of the Understaffed podcast and Chief Operations Officer of Concierge Elite. Make sure that you check them out. Their website is beautiful and works very well, by the way, just FYI.
Yay.
Yeah, it really is. I always give a shout out if I see a good website. I love a well put together website, and yours is beautiful and just quite easy to use. So you should check them out if you are looking for some remote staff or to add that piece to your business. Thank you so much, Melissa, for being on the show. You have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Every time I hear that ad, that promo, I have to laugh a little bit because I was on vacation with my sister last week, and she announced to me or reminded me that our station is on at her job, and she has to hear my ad all day. And I said, do you run around to your coworkers and say, that's my sister? That's my sister. And she's like, yeah, I don't know. No. She's like, actually, no, I know. It's surprising. You'd think she'd be more excited about that. No, she's not. But I said, I never thought about that. She's like, yes, I hear your ad all day long at work. Which, good for her. Just a reminder to listen to Money Talk with Melanie on Wednesdays from 7 to 9. So just some personal finance information, newsworthy articles. This is not surprising. Of course, inflation is now going slightly down, which is good news, but still being at 7% is not awesome, especially when wage increases are only at 5%. So still, if you do the math, that means you're taking a 2% pay cut, really, because of economic policy. But worse than that is what kinds of things does that cause? One of the things it causes is people to use their credit cards more, and as we are launching head first into the holiday shopping season, even more than that. There's a creditcards.com report that shows that 60% of credit card holders have been carrying balances on their card for at least a year, which is an increase from 2021 when that rate was just 10% of people carrying that debt. And of course, when you do that, costs you more money. Borrowing that money costs you more money. So that can be problematic. Not surprisingly, the debt burden disproportionately affects lower income Americans because they are more likely to use credit. And in particular, individuals who earn less than $50,000 a year tend to carry a credit card balance from month to month. That's in comparison to those who earn between $50,000 and $80,000, and 46% of those who earn between $80,000 and $100,000 a year. So you really, really have to be careful. One of the things that breaks me out of that spending habit and kind of, virtually smacks my hands when I consider opening a credit card, another credit card account, is to do the math. If you think about a 25% interest rate, how much money that is per $100, that's how much money you're paying on top of what you borrowed. How much is that costing you? And then ask yourself, would I be willing to pay that much for that item? A lot of times the answer is no. So if you're not going to pay it off, especially if you don't need it, if it's not an emergency, we're not talking about brakes on your car. We're talking about the latest Jimmy Choo shoes. That is not something to put on a credit card unless you're planning on paying it at the end of the month. But the use of credit is increasing, and that's also not a good sign for the economy overall. While we have other structural things in the economy that are going kind of well, this is a scary trend and just another kind of fundamental to look at in the economy and to beware. It could signal a recession, which in my opinion we're already in because we've already had those 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. But I digress. Speaking of which, what can you do if you are in a situation, it's Christmas time and it's time to put gifts under the tree, and sometimes people are having a difficult time. Money might be tight. Well, I ran into an article called The Ascent, and it laid out 6 ways that you can put gifts under the tree if money is tight. One of the things that they brought up is marine toys for tots. You can find them in many, many places that do these toy drives. Lots of businesses do those toy drives. And if you contact your local Marine Toys for Toys campaign organization, you can find out how you can obtain those toys. I actually just bought something off of Amazon today for an event I'm going to on Monday, and they are doing a toy drive. A lot of fundraisers these days, in addition to doing their fundraisers, they're doing a toy drive. If you are donating to those toy drives, make sure the gift is unwrapped. Just a little tip there. Another resource, if money is tight during Christmas time, is the United States Postal Service Operation Santa. They've been in business, or been in operation, I should say, for over 100 years. Through the Operation Santa program, volunteers adopt a child or a family and help fulfill their holiday wishes. So kids and families who need extra help can write letters to Santa with their wish list items. Make sure that you hurry up and mail those letters because they have to be postmarked by December 12th. The United Way is another good resource for you to obtain gifts if money is tight. They usually help your vulnerable neighbors and people who are facing financial challenges. They include providing shelter, safety, and food during times of crisis, and take actions that address social and educational disparities. United Way is a pretty decent organization. I like them. They, in addition to those things, they also provide meals and gifts to families that are in need during the holidays. So if you need help with gifts, you should reach out to your local chapter of the United Way. There's another organization called Santa's Little Helpers. They're an online community on Reddit, and it calls its place the happiest place on Reddit. If you've never heard of Reddit, Reddit is one of those kind of eclectic social media sites. I'm on Reddit, but I'm only on there every now and then when I really kind of want to spice up my social media trolling. Now, I'll head on over and see what's going on Reddit. But they have a space on Reddit, and you can make the magic happen during the holidays for yourself if money is tight by registering, post a wish list, and Santa's helpers volunteer to make those wishes come true. If you're interested, you have to register by December 10th. So keep that in mind. By the way, for those who are not familiar with Reddit, Reddit is spelled Reddit. Because if you don't know it, you probably never figured that out. Another organization is the Boys and Girls Club of America. They also do that. They're very committed to children's success. They provide safe spaces for safe places. Safe spaces is something completely different. Safe places for students to learn and grow, and gives them access to some really great mentors, particularly during the holiday season. They collect donations through their toy drives, and families can reach out to them and see what toys are available. And then finally, Operation Homefront, which specifically supports veterans, wounded, and active duty military members and their families. One way that they make a difference during the holidays is by collecting toys nationwide. Military families who are experiencing difficulties can go through their local distribution center to receive gifts. They also provide holiday meals. I hope you guys found those tips helpful, especially during this time of year. People are struggling and having financial problems. You don't want it to be a bummer during the season. So very, very important. And also, actually, before I move on, one thing I recommend to parents, if you have abundance, some of us have abundance and we buy our kids so much stuff every Christmas. Philanthropy is really important, in my opinion. It's important to teach your kids early. It's an important part of financial literacy. If your kids are getting new stuff, have them take one or two things to drop off at a shelter. Something that's in good place, in good shape, something that another child might enjoy. Figure out what kind of organizations might be accepting those. It's a really good way to teach your kids the lesson of the spirit of giving, to share, and just to teach them good qualities, and also the the financial principle of being philanthropic and creating a space to give to others. Just as my 2 cents. I've recommended it to many people, because a lot of people are like, what am I going to do with all this stuff? My kid has so many toys. I'm like, have your kids pick out stuff to give to kids who are less fortunate. There's tons of them out there, unfortunately, who would be delighted to have your kids' toys. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your host, Melanie Collette, and our guest coming up the second hour is Kelly MacLean. She is the president and founder of Kelly MacLean Achievement Centers, and she's going to talk to us about College Planning 101, setting your student up for success. We'll be right back.
Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie features entrepreneurs, CEOs, and politicos who are experts in their fields. Money Talk with Melanie. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. This hour, our guest is Kelly MacLean. She is president and founder of Kelly MacLean Achievement Center, and will talk to us this evening about College Planning 101, setting your student up for success. Kelly MacLean is the president and founder of Kelly MacLean Achievement Center. Her unique background as a former college admission representative and a high school varsity soccer coach provided the basis for the company. Kelly repeatedly witnessed high school students making mistakes in their college search. often resulting in missed scholarships, lack of acceptance at their choice schools, or ultimately switching schools and majors. Kelly realized how overwhelming the process is and how costly mistakes can be. Kelly felt there had to be a better way to help students with their unique path and formed College Recruiting Specialists, which was rebranded in 2019 at the Kelly MacLean Achievement Center. The Kelly MacLean Achievement Center focuses on providing information and resources specific to each student. The goal is to reduce college expenses while finding the best college fit through strategic preparation, including major selection and career planning, college selection, subject-specific tutoring, and more. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Kelly MacLean to the show.
Thank you so very much. It's absolutely my pleasure to be here.
I'm excited to have you, especially as a former educator. So I'm excited to have you on the show. I think this is an important topic for parents and students alike. Like you said, mistakes can be costly and really in the thousands of dollars if you make the wrong decision.
Absolutely. So recent studies from the National Center of Education Statistics show that less than 50% of all students graduate with a four-year degree in 4 years. Right now, the national average is 5.5. And I don't think most parents, when they're planning their college budget, are thinking about paying for 5 or even 6 years of school.
For sure. I mean, why would you?
Right. It's something that most people don't realize. The number one reason is changing majors. And, our economy, our society has changed exponentially, especially the last 3 years, just the amount of change we've seen in the workforce. And yet our education system hasn't changed. Most students are still taking just variations of math, English, science, and history, maybe an art or music class, a foreign language, and then if they're really lucky, they have some worthwhile electives that can help them start thinking about a career. But for most students, that's really not the case. So they focus more on what college do I want to attend versus what major do I need to get to that destination, because college is just really supposed to be a vehicle to get you to the career, to what your life's passion, your dreams, your aspirations, how you want to impact society, where that's going to take you. And we're really not asking 16, 17, 18-year-olds the right questions so that they can be thoughtful in their decision making.
Oh, wow. You said a mouthful. I'm just thinking 16, 17, 18-year-olds making thoughtful decisions. Like, that's just... I mean, I'm a former educator. I used to teach high school. And then, quiet as it's kept, there was a time when I was a 16, 17, or 18-year-old. And I just think I knew nothing. And I was making big, big, big decisions about my future as far as college and the like.
Well, it's funny because I use a ton of analogies, but I use the analogy often that, families would never, I don't know a single family who would hand their child a blank check for $100,000 to go out and buy a house on their own. And yet we let kids the average in-state tuition, room and board is $25,000 minimum, right? And we let kids make that $100,000 decision because of being led around the campus by a 19-year-old. If they bought a house, there'd be an appraiser, there'd be an inspector, there'd be a realtor, there'd be, a termite inspection, there'd be a survey, there would be so many, and parents would be there the whole time, right, making sure.
That's exactly right.
We allow them to do that. And again, a lot of people perceive that I'm putting pressure on 16, 17, and 18-year-olds to make a decision on what job they want. And nothing could be further from the truth. But what I want to start happening is for people to start asking kids, not where do you want to go, what do you want to do, but what change do you want to see? Who do you want to help? What do you enjoy doing?
And that is such an important question.
Yeah, just changing the narrative behind the whole process.
What I taught when I was an educator was financial literacy, and part of that of course, was choosing a career. And I always said to students that you may think that money is the end all to be all, but trust and believe me, 8 hours a day at a job where you are miserable, it will not seem worth it no matter what amount of money you make. So make sure it's something that you enjoy.
You are right on, Melanie. You are right on. 36% of students that are biology majors change their majors. And most biology majors are considering careers in medicine. And when they hit that organic chemistry, those difficult courses, organic chemistry combined with calculus.
Mm-hmm. It might be too hard.
Well, right. Well, they realize that, you know what, I really don't have the passion to go through this. And so helping them figure out what that passion is instead of, you're really good at biology, you always wanted to help people, why don't you think about being a doctor? You're really smart, you could do that. Or the one that really kind of makes me insane is the number of boys who come into my office. I want to go into engineering. I used to love playing with Legos. I'm really good at math. Great. What discipline? What? Well, what kind of engineering? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, how do you know you want to do it? And so often we get college students, end of freshman year, halfway through sophomore year, and the majority of college students coming in for career planning are students in engineering or pre-med who are like, you know what, this isn't for me, and I just have no clue what to do now.
And that's got to be absolutely brutal. Like, I can't.
It is brutal. And you know what? It's really brutal for the students. 60% of college kids report depression. And the number one reason is because they feel like everyone around them has it figured out, because everyone has a major. But inside, they're struggling because they're like, I know this isn't for me and I don't know what to do. Everyone else knows. I don't know. And again, there's not a lot of great resources. You know, a lot of colleges have created a experience class or an undeclared major class where they can, you know, try to suss things out. But really what a lot of those classes are encouraging students to do is further explore something they're already familiar with and dig deeper into it and write about it. And I find that most kids don't know, other than, you know, most kids can name 12 careers. And beyond that, they don't have a clue what's available. And if you don't know, you can't choose it, nor can you even investigate it. And so going off to college, and again, you know, writing that check, taking out the loans, even worse, because now we've got debt and we've accomplished nothing.
And that is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. And I can't, I wanted to be an actress, but I was too much of a wuss, so I went into business instead. And ended up doing TV and radio anyway, which is kind of wild. But
well, you kind of came back to your passion.
Right? Totally by accident, though. Completely by accident. But I kind of, in reflecting, wish I had have pursued my passion instead of being a wuss. Because clearly it's something that I was meant to be involved in.
Certainly. Yeah, for sure.
But at that time, I was thinking, you know, you should be practical. I suppose there should be a balance there, right? But
definitely,
you know, between pursuing your passion, like, I don't know, if you want to get a master's degree in basket weaving, there's probably not a lot of super basket weaving jobs out there that you can.
Right. And that's, you know, and that's part of it. Well, okay, so very interesting. A lot of parents, you know, they want what's best for their children, no question about it. And they want to help their children. And I think the bottom line for every parent is, I want my child to be happy and self-supporting. That's what people really want for their children, right? They really don't care what they do. They just want them to be happy and self-supporting.
Self-supporting is a good phrase. I like that. That's good.
Yeah. They don't have to be rich, but they have to be able to afford their lifestyle, whatever that is for them. But yet parents will encourage their children unknowingly to be computer programmers. Go into computers, go into programming. There's lots of jobs for programmers. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, programming is on a decline 10% a year.
Really?
because what's become bigger, which you can do with programming, but is software development. Because now they can hire a programmer who never went to college and get them to do software development. Or they can hire a software developer who can do the programming and the whole development piece. But again, we make it our job here to study the trends, to see what's up and coming, to see, where are the future opportunities? What do those look like? What kind of education do you need so that you can be on the right track? I mean, I guess, again, to go back to the housing analogy, if you were looking to purchase a house in another city, sight unseen, you're being transferred, you've got to rely on a realtor, I'll bet you check out the neighborhood. Is it up and coming? Is it declining? Is the picture of the house just great and it's next to, I don't know, some 7-Eleven with a bunch of drug dealers hanging around outside? There's a big difference. So, knowing what's going to happen, what the future is or what we can see is so much more beneficial for students than just relying on what's hot right now.
And that is for sure. It's kind of like doing a market study before you start a business, right? You need to find the gaps, and you want to have a vocation that's in demand, and that's going to be in demand for the years to come.
Exactly. And it's so important. It's so funny. I've had students over the years who have expressed, I want to be a sports broadcaster. I know every athlete's stats. I'd be a great sports broadcaster. Well, the reality is the well-paid sports broadcasters are the fans' favorite athletes who are no longer playing, who have a reputation, who have a following, who can drive the ratings up. So it's not someone who just knows the stats. It's not someone who is articulate. It is someone who has that following. So if this is truly your passion and you're willing to go through the being underpaid in minor league broadcasting and so forth and work your way up, why don't you go broadcast, if we're talking to a guy, let's say, why don't you go broadcast the girls' high school basketball game? Yeah, I don't really want to do that. Okay, well then broadcasting's not really for you, is it?
I was about to say, then you're not really into broadcasting then. That
Right.
is for sure if you're not willing to do that. Now, I want to ask you, when should families start considering that college journey? When should they start looking? When should you start thinking about it? I've worked in both private and public schools. I find that private school parents, some decide that their kid is going to Harvard as they're entering pre-K.
Right.
and
you are correct.
And public school parents don't start thinking about it till like the end of their kid's junior year in high school.
Right. So the optimal time, to be honest, and it should happen in stages, because that makes everything less stressful for the children, for the parents, for everyone. So you're on vacation. Your kid's in 6th, 7th, 8th grade. You're on vacation. You're doing a staycation. What college is closest to you? You know what? We're going to take a drive-by. We're going to drive through it. We're going to see what you like. Do you like the big urban campus? Would you like a smaller, more rural campus? Oh, let's check this place out this year. Those, you're kind of setting the foundation so that your child realizes a couple of things. Number one, all colleges are not the same. Number two, they have some say in it. And number three, they should be starting to think about what do they really want, not what schools are my friends going to.
Right.
So you start there. But freshman year of high school, I think it's really important to, start choosing classes based on the level of school your child is most likely to aspire to. And so this shouldn't be solely driven by the parent who wants their kid to go to Harvard. That's a great dream. The admission rate at Harvard tells me that 90% of those dreams, or more than 90%, 95% of those dreams are crushed. Okay, so if they're sending away 95% of kids, trust me, those 95%, at least 94 of the 95%, all have the same grades, test scores, everything else.
Exactly.
But the 5% who got in have.
Exactly.
So, but here's the thing: if you're going to set yourself up for success, how many AP classes are those schools looking for? And I'll give you an interesting, when I went to college, and boy, will I get pushback from some people on this, but when I went to college, I can tell you here in Ohio, some of my least academic friends went to Ohio State. Ohio State pretty much had an open door policy back then.
Oh, wow.
Now, Ohio State has become pretty selective, like a lot of other schools. And in talking with the admission people, because again, another area where we stay very well connected is with admission representatives across the country. And in talking with the admission representatives at Ohio State, they have started prioritizing AP classes taken before the application period.
Oh, wow.
Well, I had a couple of students this year, like, well, I'm going to take AP classes as a senior. Well, they're making their admission decisions in December. You won't have an AP grade, a semester grade, a class. Like, you have shot yourself in the foot by not taking an AP class or 2 or 3 as a sophomore and junior. So knowing what the colleges expect, so that freshman year, you can start you're on that course path. I had a girl in my office today. She wants to attend a college in England. And there's some great opportunities overseas. Well, I'll just throw that out there for anyone who's even considering it or hasn't considered it. Great opportunities. But they want ACT scores, SAT scores, either one. They want grades, and they want at least a 4 or 5 AP score on 3 tests at the time of application.
Whoa.
And considering we apply in August of senior year, so prior to the school year actually starting, that means you have to have them done by the end of your junior year. And if you don't know this, you've eliminated certain schools from your child's options.
That is true. And even if you're not sure whether or not you want to go to college, I know it's been my experience that students think your freshman year is not important, but what they don't realize is that it affects your GPA, which can affect how much scholarship money you get and things like that. But some kids, and if your parents allow it, that's on them, like kind of blow off their freshman and senior year as far as their grades and stuff are concerned. And then, they get older and get a bit more mature, and they're like, oh, wow, I'd really like to go to college. But now you kind of played yourself because you've been hovering around a C for no reason, just because you weren't doing your best, and now that's going to affect how much money you're able to get for college.
100%. 100%. There are so many factors that go into college admission and scholarships, but the biggest indicator of how successful a student will be in college is their past performance. So if you don't have the grades to prove that you're going to do well in college, and let me kind of share, if you don't mind, why this is so critical, and most people don't think of this. College is a business. When they're making their acceptance decision, they don't think about that.
Say it again for the folks in the back. It is not a charity. Yes. Say it again.
Yes, college is a business. And here's the business model. They have a flaw in their business model, which affects who they allow to be accepted. So when they're making the decision, they're determining, is this kid capable of performing at a high enough level throughout the first semester so they can come back second semester? And consider this, like, let's take a look at AP classes. In most schools that are not on block schedules, most schools, kids have about a 50-minute class period. They attend the same class 5 days a week. AP classes last the entire year. So you've got every week 5 50-minute periods to get that through that information. That same level course in college is 1 semester, 3 hours a week. So now you have a lot more self-study. So when colleges are looking, like, do you have good enough grades so that when No one's holding your hand. You are on your own. You have to do your own laundry. You have to get your stuff together. You have to show up for class with no one helping you. Mom and dad aren't here. No one's reminding you. No one's driving you to class. Are you going to get here? Are you going to be responsible? Are you going to be able to perform? Because
Exactly.
we're not getting paid for second semester
You are
until
preaching.
December. And if your parents see your grades and say, oh my goodness, I am not paying for you to go part of your life away at that school, you're going to come home, go to community college, which there's nothing wrong with community college, but most schools have a bleed rate of anywhere from 2 to 10%. If 10% of that freshman class either doesn't come back because the school kicked them out, parents pulled them out, they realized the school wasn't right for them, it was too hard, whatever the case is, their budget doesn't change. They're not getting rid of professors because 10% didn't come back.
Right.
They're not closing dorms. So they still have to meet all of their financial obligations without second semester payments from all of those kids. So their business system is who can we count on to know that they've shown a demonstrated pattern of being responsible enough to get the job done, and we know they'll be allowed to come back.
Exactly. And, I used to tell my students that, especially the ones that complain about things like algebra, oh, when am I going to use algebra? When am I going to use this? And I'm like, school is more than just about how smart you are or your test taking. It's also about discipline and resilience and time management and skills that you're going to need when you get out into the working world. So, high school prepares you for college. College prepares you for your career, or it's supposed to, and that's the way it's supposed to work. But it's not just about the subject matter. It's about all those other qualities that you just mentioned earlier and the ones that I just mentioned that you need to practice developing. Work-life balance. Can you do sports and school at the same time? Can you do a part-time job and school at the same time? Can you maneuver and handle a bunch of things, which is what life is going to throw at you? I was telling one of my students who turned 18, and he was like so happy, and not to burst his bubble. I was like, dude, it's downhill from here. Like, what? Like, you're going to be, now you're responsible for yourself. Like, you might want to just like be more thoughtful and kind of meditate on that. It's a sobering, it's a sobering fact of life.
Yes.
You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. Our expert this hour is Kelly MacLean. She's talking to us about how to prepare your student for success, and we'll be right back at the end of the break.
Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. We're speaking to Kelly MacLean about how to set your student up for success, college preparation 101. We were talking about, the importance of being prepared for college with the other things outside of how smart you are before the break, but the other things that high school teaches you. And you can't, I swear, like if the parents don't have it, they don't hear the teachers say it. They won't, at least that was my experience. They wouldn't listen to me say, I'm like, trust me, you're going to need these skills when you're an adult. You're going to have a job with kids and a house to run. You need discipline, resilience, and these things, as well as, knowing what chemical combinations of cleaner might knock you out or possibly kill you. So you need, your science classes. These things are important.
Absolutely. You are so right. And, I've often said it takes a village. And so if we begin to change the education system to meet the demands of society today and the economy today and have those conversations with our children, our students earlier, and if we were all on the same page and asking those types of questions, I think we could really cultivate the skills students need. But right now it's kind of a little piecemeal, and there is no uniformity in what everyone thinks students need or the best way to get them there. And, outside of the academic piece, colleges, especially since colleges have gone test optional and the amount of applications has increased substantially since COVID, what we're also seeing are colleges looking for initiative. And kids have no idea what that means.
Oh, none. None.
Yeah.
And that's the, that gets into a whole nother show, right? How we're raising
Mm-hmm.
our kids in schools, how parents are raising their kids, all of that. We're not letting them, in my opinion, we're not letting them be uncomfortable. And that's where the learning takes place, in my opinion. How are you going to learn how to juggle things if your parents do everything for you?
Absolutely.
You're not
And,
going to learn the skill.
Right. So often, again, parents are so well-meaning.
Yes.
It's been done the same way for the last 30, 40 years. So they're on that same track, but everything else has changed. And this piece needs to change too. The parents, oh, my kid's so busy, they're playing a sport, they don't have time for other things. Oh, my kid's involved in everything. They're in Key Club, they're in the band, they play this sport during this season, and they do something else right at school. And I'm like, yeah, they need to show some initiative. Oh my gosh, they're doing all of this. It's really easy to join Key Club when all you have to do is show up in room 103
Right.
after class today with all of your friends.
Exactly.
It's a completely different story if you decide that, gosh, the last time I went past the park, it was a disaster. I'm going to organize a park cleanup this weekend because I'm really interested in the environment. And I got 16 kids to come and pick up trash and, took all these bags to the recycling center and so forth. There's a big difference in those two things.
That is for certain. That is certainly true. And that's, you're missing the mark if you don't acquire that skill. Let's transition slightly to the college expense. Is there a way to be strategic in reducing college expenses for families?
Absolutely. Number one way is good grades. And when I say good grades, which that's a term that I hate, by the way, because I'll ask a student, how are your grades? And he'll say good. And I'll say, really? Because I've never seen the word good on the report card since kindergarten. So what does it mean? So it's a great tool, resource for parents, and it's completely free, is collegedata.com. In collegedata.com, you scroll down about halfway, you can put the name of any school. When you put the name of the school, click on it. The first page shows an overview. It shows the average GPA for students accepted to their school. It shows the average test score for students accepted to their school. If your kid is above both of those things, you're getting scholarship money. If your kid's in the middle of both of those things, not much, if any. If your kid's below that, they're not getting any money. So when you're looking at the elite schools, you're not getting money unless you have need. Your idea of need, the school's idea of need, are two different things. And so you want to find schools, and this is another thing. I find families don't have this conversation early enough. Oh, I'd like my kid to pick wherever they'd like to go. I really want them to think about it, dream about it, wherever they'd like to go, and we'll figure it out. And then I get a phone call. You got to tell my kid they can't go to the school. It's $70,000 a year, and they just got accepted. Okay, we should have had this conversation long ago. And once that happened to me, and I had a girl in my office, tears running down her face, because I'm sitting there telling her, your family can't afford this. I mean, the mom was there in the room too. But, you've got to think about, what is that budget? Where is your comfort level? Because when you fill out the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, they determine your need. They call it an EFC number, expected family contribution.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to the dollar. It's not like if it says $6,000, let me tell you, they're not coming down to $6,000. They'll get you closer, but they're not getting there. But they're basing what you need on how much debt you can service. Because families oftentimes will have a $45,000 EFC, and they're like, we can't write a check for $45,000. What are they thinking? No, but they know that you can afford the loan payments on $45,000 of a government loan over 20 years. Wait, what? Yes, that's what our system is based on. In fact, I just read a Wall Street Journal article today that the Government Office of Accountability showed that, I want to say, and I don't have the article right in front of me, I apologize, it was like less than 40% of colleges provide a financial aid award letter that is clear on how much the family actually owes before a child makes a decision.
Yes, and many students don't even understand. I was talking to one the other day, don't understand that a student loan means you have to pay the money back. And I really was like, I was stunned, especially as someone who formerly taught financial literacy and economics. I was stunned, first of all. I was like, what did you think you were signing? Like, when you loan someone money, what did you think that meant? Like, and he really was like, oh, I have to pay that? Like, and he's like, why? I was like, do you think that the professor was up there, like, for free? Do you think they were up there teaching you, like, as some kind of charity, some kind of altruistic mission that they were on? Like, no, they were up there for money. Like, what are we talking about?
The electric company is not turning on the lights for free.
And all of that, right? All of that overhead and everything else that goes with teaching. But he really was confused as to why he had to pay for it. It was bizarre.
I literally have had parents tell me, oh my gosh, we got the financial aid award letter. We don't know anything. I said, that's impossible. No, we're getting a full ride. No, let's take a look at it. We look at it. It'll show the initial cost. It will show the student scholarship for merit, meaning grades, test scores, that type of thing. It'll show maybe grant money. Then it shows the Stafford subsidized loan and unsubsidized loan.
Yep.
And then it'll have Parent Plus loan, $22,000. But it won't say loan. It'll say Parent Plus, $22,000. And then it shows zero balance.
Well,
parents are like, whoa, I didn't say I'd take out a loan. No, but that's what they're telling you need to do.
Right. And that's something, quite honestly, that should be changed. Some legislation that should be changed.
Oh, for sure.
You know, that's just ridiculous.
For sure.
Now,
for sure.
There can be some costly mistakes like switching majors and things like that. We touched on it earlier. That can happen while you're in college, that can cause you to lose your aid, not getting a good grade. I was an adjunct professor for about 5 years, and there would be kids who would run into this problem. They're like, Professor Collette, like I really have to pass your class, or else I'll lose my financial aid. It's like, bro, you should have thought about that before you skipped my first 5 classes. Like, what are we doing?
Right.
Absolutely. But so what can parents do to kind of avoid or mitigate those issues during their kids' college life?
So I think it's really important. And again, as much as high school is supposed to prepare kids for college, the reality is that most kids learn this after a mistake in college because no one's preparing them. So a couple different things. I think it's very important at orientation. Parents need to go to orientation with their students. They have parent meetings, they have student meetings, they have combination meetings. But in those meetings, the students are given the opportunity to sign what's called the FERPA, the Federal Education Rights to Privacy Act. And they need to sign saying their parents have permission for a couple of reasons. Parents can't even make the payment on tuition if they call and say, hey, what's that amount? Oh, sorry, we can't tell you.
Exactly.
So kids need to sign it for that reason. But parents, come on, you've been checking Progress Book and Power School and Parchment and everything else all these years to check up on your kids' grades. Just because they're away at college doesn't mean you should stop until you know that they are, in fact, because kids don't realize what's going to happen when they get that first D and how that, like you said, most scholarships have a GPA threshold. You
Yep.
have to maintain this GPA or you lose it. Well, gosh, if I've been given $10,000 for 4 straight years, 40 grand, if I get a D in a class and I'm not going to maintain that GPA, they're not going to give me a chance next semester to bring the GPA back up and then start getting it again. Once it's gone, it's gone.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and I think parents really, I want them to be independent. Allow them to start being independent in high school.
Thank you.
To
Preach
see if
on
they
it.
can handle it.
Yes.
And then when they're in college, do a little checkup, because the amount of free time, their whole life completely changes if they are away at college. And so, a little bit of checkup is not a bad thing. I'm not saying plan out their days for them, but in high school, you should be let them fail so that they learn how not to fail in college.
That is
Let them stop calling teachers and asking for makeup.
Yep.
They had a bad weekend and can you allow them? No, stop doing that for them. They have to see what the consequences are, because in college, in high school, it could be a bad grade. In college, it could be the difference between being able to continue college or not.
Exactly. And the exact words that you said are the exact words that I've told parents. I'm like, now is the time to let them mess up and see that there's a consequence. Now, so that the consequence isn't life altering, and they get the lesson. But this past generation is just not not only is it not the style of parenting that's being done, it's not the style of teaching that's being done in public schools. It's very fluffy and soft, in my opinion.
Oh, preach. Yes. Yes. I have students with a 4.0 plus GPA that come in and they've scored really poorly on an ACT. And I'm like, how do you do in math class? Oh, I've always had an A in high school in math class. Really? Your math score, I'm kind of surprised. Where do you think that difference is? Oh, the test was so fast. I had to go so fast. Well, do you get extra time on test in school? And this is not students. I am not speaking about students who have qualified for extra time due to IEPs or 504 plans. So parents, don't give me hate
freak
mail.
out.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Don't send out hate tweets.
Right. I am talking about students who have never been identified as quote unquote needing extra time, but teachers, you know what, you didn't finish that test. Why don't you come back in during your lunch period and do that? Or the other thing that kills me in math, I have seen entire schools where kids are given 10 points a day for turning in math homework. It doesn't have to be right. They just have to turn in a piece of paper, and they get 10 points a day. So they can do really poorly on tests, proving that they really don't know what's going on.
Yep.
But because they're getting 50 points a week for turning in papers, they still earn a good grade. And this is why standardized tests are so important for colleges making decisions, because there's no flexibility. It's the same test for everyone.
You are exactly right. You are preaching to the choirs. One of the reasons I got out of the classroom was because of that. I felt like there weren't any real standards, and it bothered me. And I was like, we're just giving out grades here. What are we doing? And you are 150% right. And then the parents look at their grades and say, well, how could they fail this test when they have straight A's in math? It's like, well, they're not real A's. They're not A's like back in the day when we had school. And so
and college doesn't give away those A's.
Nope.
Like high schools are.
Not at all, which is why I loved teaching college. It was the best thing ever. And typically you don't have to talk to parents, which is also beautiful. So, so most of the time you don't have to talk to parents, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Right.
We're up against the end of the hour. Where can people find you on social media, a website, etc.?
Absolutely. So the best place to go is College Made Easy by Kelly MacLean on Facebook. We have a private group you can join. We post videos, information. We have a lot of resources there for families. You can also go to our website. It's Kelly-MacLean.com. Kelly-MAC.com. So Kelly, Kelly -MAC.com. We do free consultations. My goal is to help as many people as possible. If I can do a free consultation, give you some insight on what you need to do. If there's more we can do for you, we can talk about what that would look like. And, happy to try to help. And we do have a lot of families in the New Jersey area, by the way.
Oh,
So,
very nice. Very nice.
A lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
New Jersey's a huge state, and it's a very diverse state. So I would imagine so.
Yes, we do. It's a big market for us.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was very, very informative. Kelly MacLean of Kelly MacLean. I want to make sure I get this right. Of Kelly MacLean Achievement Center. Thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate you. Have a great night.
Thank you, Melanie.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. I'd like to thank my guests, Melissa Brown and Kelly MacLean. I'd like to thank my man on the boards, Sam. And also, I'd like to thank you, the audience, for listening. Remember to tune in next week to Money Talk with Melanie, where social selling corporate consultant and life plan facilitator Dana Rofer will talk to us about Shop Social, connect with the people and products that support your life. We will also have author John Egan, who will talk the stripped down guide to content marketing, success secrets for beginners. Remember, after all, this is important because it's your money.